Hey there, and welcome back to the episode of A Cup of Joe. My name is Joe Escobedo, and I am really excited because this is the last episode of 2020. And I'm very excited because I have two of my good friends on here, Kenneth and Nicole Wang from LucaNet. Thanks so much for being
Hi,
with me.
Joe.
Hi.
So,
It's a
Kenneth,
pleasure to be with you here today as well.
absolutely, always good to see your beautiful face. So, for those watching, Kenneth is the managing director for LucaNet in Singapore, and Nicole is the regional marketing manager. And you know, Kenneth and I have had a chance to collaborate multiple times, and Nicole as well. So I'd love to find out more about your guys' experience. What are some of the things that are working for you guys on the sales and marketing side? You've been experimenting with some new things, from targeting, taking a content first approach, to even the way you guys run your your questions with clients and prospects. So would love to find out all about that from you guys. But maybe we'll start off on something that I'm always shouting about is in terms of targeting, in terms of messaging, particularly on LinkedIn and other platforms. So I know you guys have been, I'd love to hear like the before and after. What are some of the things you guys were doing before in terms of targeting, and then what are some of the things that you've learned that you're kind of shifting to doing now?
So maybe I'll share. So with regards to targeting, so looking at, we are an accounting software. So our main target audience would be finance leaders. So that would be our finance managers, financial controllers, and CFOs. So when we target the relevant audience, we will always call out finance leaders. That's literally what we put in our advertisements and our content. Because, at the start, we were thinking, our main market is in Singapore. And how many people do you have in Singapore? We only have like a small population of 5 million people.
Mhm.
So we thought that, finance leaders is going to be even less. And calling out finance leaders is good enough because to us, we're just going to be targeting a few thousand audiences. And we thought like, hey, maybe so we just call out finance leaders in all of our content and that will work. But, like it's our sad and embarrassing past. So when it came to results and conversion, it was really low. And we were running webinars with just one or two attendees actually. So, that really made us stop to think like, hey, are all finance leaders the same? Do all of them have the same pain points? And is there a better way to further segregate these finance leaders?
Mhm.
Yeah, so, we spoke to Joe and he gave us a lot of tips, and that's when we started to really dissect our audience and further narrow our targeting.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to Nicole's point, I think we pretty much adopted like a shotgun approach. So basically throwing like an entire list onto the wall and see what sticks. And basically, like what Nicole mentioned, the returns was extremely low, so low conversion rates. So just imagine like week on week running webinars only for one or two attendees.
I think no, I think that I appreciate you guys, sharing your experiences because I think it's going to be helpful for a lot of people watching and listening to this. A lot of them are doing the exact same thing where they're taking the shotgun approach. They're trying to appeal to as many people as possible, and I've seen that in multiple industries. When you do that, it's very challenging because you're trying to cast this wide net, but then you're not really catching anybody because it's just it's way too wide. So I love that you guys have kind of narrowed down and you guys focusing on not only specific in terms of financial leaders, but also specific types of companies, which I won't mention here, but I think that has been the kind of the key difference is looking at maybe it's either company size or industries or whatever kind of additional criteria. I think you guys, I think have a very clear definition of who your niche target audience is. And I think it's been reflective in terms of your marketing message and outreach. So I think, yes, it is the most difficult part, but I think that you guys are a testament to making that switch, and obviously it's hopefully helped on the conversions and registration side as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And how we really find out what target audience was suitable for us was to really look at our past successes. So really taking a look at just what type of companies did our clients come from? Like what is their company size? What were their pain points? And any specific industries to observe if there are any trends with our existing clients. And that's how, we really came up with a list of accounts that to us were meaningful, and these were potential prospects that we also want to turn into clients. So with that list, we basically ran another webinar this time. And for that webinar, before we launched the campaign, my palms were actually pretty sweaty because with that webinar, our target list only had 800 companies. And I was like, 800 companies with our existing conversion rates, we are going to get what? 0.8 registrants? Like, is that going to be the results that we're getting? But, the results really, really surprised me because with this small, narrow target list, we managed to get over 100 registrants and 45 attendees. And these were numbers that were not seen before in our industry. So to me, that really taught me a lesson about the importance of conversion rates. And instead of just increasing the size of a target audience, it's also really important to focus on getting that conversion. Even with a small pool of 800 companies, you can get pretty amazing results.
Yeah,
and as counterintuitive as it might sound, right, Nicole? So like, your natural instinct is to think that a wider pool will get you wider conversions. But then here we have a situation where we really went specific into a smaller number of audience that we wanted to reach out to, and the turnout was maybe 100x, 1000x of what we have been doing.
Exactly.
I think it's a really, really good point. I think Nicole as well, in terms of looking at conversions and going that niche in terms of the audience and having a bigger impact. Because if you think about it from a consumer's point of view, if you're on social media, you're flipping through, there are tons of webinars for financial professionals. There's like almost one every second you see, you're flipping through it. But when you go down a bit more granular, if you're saying Fortune 500 finance professionals or SME finance professionals or finance professionals in tech or whatever it is, those keywords stand out to you. And I've seen this correlate in different industries as well, whether it's tech or finance or commercial real estate, is when you have those keywords, when you're scrolling through, it's going to pop out to you. So even if I said, automation companies or financial automation companies in Singapore, all these different keywords, whether it's geography, are going to signal a trigger in your mind because it goes back to familiarity. The more familiar you are with the keyword and the messaging, the more likely you are to stop scrolling and say, okay, what is this talking about? Let me find out more about this. So
and it sort of like screams out to you like, oh, this event or this webinar, this content is meant for me.
Yes.
And it's specifically for what exactly I'm doing or what exactly my company is doing. And for those that are not in the industry that we were targeting, because we had a few registrants that was outside of the pool, it also like calls out to them, for example, if it's industry that they might want to go into, or maybe some best practices of a complementary industry as well.
That's a very good point, that you do get those outliers, which could be additional kind of opportunities that you hadn't thought about. But once again, it's still meant for them because, as you rightly said, could be an industry they're looking to jump into or an industry they're looking to partner with. Whatever the rationale is, they're far more invested into what you're doing because you summed it up beautifully. It is for me. You're making this for me. It's about me. And as a result, I want to sign up. I want to attend. I want to find out more about things you're doing. So,
and it's not a webinar I want to miss.
It's not a webinar. It's not a webinar for a miss. Like, no one wants to miss a party that's just for you. Like it's and I think we try to equate the same analogy to what you guys are doing. And I think really, really good examples, guys. I love you guys. Appreciate you that sharing so much. Another thing I want to get your thoughts on is the way you approach content. And once again, I would love to hear the before and after. I will share, and I see this particularly in tech. Tech are very, very guilty of going demo first. So they say, okay, here's a demo, here's a product, here's a feature. What to find out more? Sign up for whatever it is, download our ebook or et cetera, et cetera. And most tech companies do that because they understand the technology. So for them, it's like, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. But if you are a consumer, you have no idea what they're talking about a lot of times. I have clients that I've worked with for years, and I'm like, what is that product again? So I think it's one of those things that I think tech companies in general are very much guilty of drinking the Kool-Aid. So thinking like, oh, this is the best for me, it's gotta be the best for everyone. I understand this, so everyone must understand it. Which as we could tell, that's not the case. But once again, I would love to hear your guys' kind of approach to how you guys were doing your content versus how you've shifted it now.
Maybe I'll just share a bit insight. I'm guilty of what you have mentioned, Joe. So, I mean, in the past, I was like doing demonstrations that was like an hour and a half long. That's just functionalities, functionalities, functionalities. And at the end of 1.5 hours, I think some of these industry contacts that we have spoken to are just like overloaded with the data, overloaded with the content, and they sort of like forget like what were the 10 points that Kenneth showed throughout the entire time. So it's like what you mentioned. It's we are extremely proud of our functionalities. We are comfortable with it. We are always just talking about our product. But yes, so Nicole had a pivot into the way that we position ourselves. So yes, Nicole.
Yeah, so like previously when we were doing demos, the funny thing is like the sales team, they'll be super excited just telling about all the cool features LucaNet has, and then at the end of the demo there will always be a question that we ask, like, do you guys have any questions? Usually the users would have no questions to ask because they're just overloaded with all the information. To us, we're a bit geeky. We love all the new features and we're really excited to show. And with every product update, we just want to show them like what are the latest features LucaNet can provide. But I start to realize that, hey, like maybe as a consumer, the more important thing and the more important question that they want us to answer for them is, what can these features do for me as a finance professional? So we really went to talk to our clients to find out like what exactly were your pain points. Like, why did you even choose LucaNet in the first place, other than the fact that we have all these cool features? And how are you exactly using LucaNet to improve your life as a finance leader? So with that, we have started to pivot all of our content, and even with our webinar, the one that was very successful, we just tried to approach it with more of like a thought leadership kind of content. We were really focused on the benefits and the value of automation and technology instead of the tool itself. So we were saying that with LucaNet, you can save time and then you can spend the additional time with your family. These are the things that they really care about and the things that really are important to them. So yeah, that's the way that we have been changing our content. And yeah, and the conversion rate and the successes really tell.
And I mean, just to put it in another analogy, right? Just imagine you're walking around the MRT station and someone hands you a flyer for a condominium. I mean, out of the 1,000 flyers that's being handed out, I think only maybe 2 or 5 of them would actually end up in the showroom, rather than like, for example, on those advertisements that you would see, oh, good investment property, and those that are the ones that who really want to get this valuable investment property will naturally walk in to the showroom themselves rather than forcing it down people's throat, because at the end of the day, you need to be able to show the value and get the audience who sees what this would be able to help them with.
Yes.
Basically, yeah, it's like the use case of your product. You can't just have a product when there's no use for it. Every product that it fulfills a certain purpose, it helps people do something about their lives. So what exactly is that use case? So yeah, I think that's really important.
Absolutely. I think you summed it up perfectly. Because Kenneth shared an analogy, I'm going to share a super quick analogy because I think most people in tech are very much like doctors. They understand the prescription, they understand the ingredients within the medicine itself. But you, as someone who is a patient, you couldn't care less what's inside the ingredient, inside the specific medicine. You want to know, how is this going to alleviate my headache? How is this going to, make me not dizzy, or whatever symptoms I'm feeling. So once again, I think it goes back to Nicole. What you were saying is identifying the right symptoms and then having some ideas or possible solutions rather than diving into the specific ingredients, because at the end of the day, the doctors get very excited, tech people get very excited, customers, they couldn't care less a lot of the times. I think the only exception to that rule is those who are existing customers. So I think that works out well if you're doing like upsells and cross sells where you're introducing new features. But that's because they've already prescribed to that medicine. They're already taking it. They know a bit about it. So they want to know what can I increase the dosage, or how can I make it a bit better for me. So I think it does play a role to play, but way down in the post-sales process. I think pre-sales, no one really cares. They only care about how can you help alleviate some of those challenges. And I think you guys summed it up beautifully. I think the other thing I want to get your thoughts on is the way you guys approach marketing and sales now. Because I think one thing, Nicole, you're talking about is really understanding what are the pain points, what are the challenges. And there's a couple of different ways to find out that information. But I think you guys have done some interesting ways in order to gather some of those insights. So maybe you could share a little bit more in terms of how you are getting better information from your prospects and customers.
You know, the easiest way to get this information is always to just ask. And who exactly to ask. All of us, we have our existing list of clients, and there is definitely some reason why we managed to build a good relationship with our clients. So I would say what we did was really to just list out all of our clients and then identify the clients that we loved working with, because we not every relationship with our client is great. So there are some relationships that are better than others. So we shortlisted the clients that we really loved working with, and then we just sat down and really talked to them to discover their customer journey. Like, how did they find out about us? Through what medium, through what channels? What did they hear about us? What was their brand perception? What were the pain points at that time before they used LucaNet? And how did we help them with their lives after they have adopted the solution? So, this way is not just getting information from them. It's also a great way to reconnect with your existing clients. So with our conversations, it just provided us an opportunity to reconnect and talk to our clients, and hopefully with a better understanding of their customer journey, we can find more lookalike clients like them and then replicate that same experience.
And for a fast growing company, at the end of the day, every lead that comes in always looks exciting. But then there's also that balance between like the velocity of the sales cycle and also the return on investment. So by really understanding your existing clients, especially clients that you really love, this really helps to like shorten the sales process, the sales cycle, because what other complementary companies or other similar companies are looking for are exactly what you have done before, and it's also enjoyable for your entire functional team when they are doing the project, for example. So it's very easy to then replicate from the pre-sales to the objection management phase, all the way down to even the service delivery, the project itself. And that basically helps in terms of, let's say, return on investment. So for example, a process that might have taken 4 months, but because you do know the intricacies, you're able to replicate the processes quickly. You're able to shorten it down to 2 months, for example.
Basically, you're just trying to copy and paste your clients and grow your client base.
Yeah, I think you guys are absolutely right. There's so many different advantages. And I think talk about shorter sales cycles and more efficiencies. I think it's a lean team, efficiencies and processes. I mean, you guys are in finance, you guys know processes better than anyone else. But I think that's key when you're doing what you guys are doing as well, because Nicole, you bring a very good point, identifying the clients you enjoy work with that are profitable, because like you said, not everyone you work with you're gonna like, and it's a profitable account. It's just the way it is. If one of my clients listening, I love you all, but with the exception of that, those are the case. So I think that's a good thing to filter out, because you want to your point, you want to find out more customers like them. You want to find, okay, who's similar, who has similar challenges that I can support. And then because of that, yes, Kenneth is absolutely right. It does accelerate the sales process so much faster, because a lot of the time people want to know, okay, what have you done with other companies? So they want to know similar industries, obviously, similar pain points. And the faster you can showcase that, whether in your content, your sales meetings, the faster it triggers in their mind that says, okay, these guys know what they're doing in my space. Therefore, I am more inclined. I don't have to have them jump through so many hoops, because they've already proven themselves to me. So I think that is where kind of the trust and credibility really helps accelerate some of the sales cycle. But I think to your point, it starts with asking a question, getting that information. Otherwise, this whole thing is impossible.
Yeah, and exactly like you said, Joe, especially for a growing company in a new region, getting the references and the customer cases is extremely important. LucaNet, we have quite an established brand in Europe, but we are still trying to grow our brand presence in the ASEAN region. So by showing to prospects that hey, we have seen great success with these companies, it gives them a lot of assurance that
Mm-hmm.
this product and this team is able to meet my needs and provide the service that I want, and it really helps accelerate the process and them taking the leap of faith to build a relationship with us.
You're absolutely right. And I was thinking about this morning. I have a very weird brain, but I was thinking about this exact same thing. How can these smaller, fast-growing companies compete with the big boys? Because obviously they're going to have a lot more resources. They're going to have a lot more budgets when it comes to marketing and sales. How can you compete with that? And I think it goes back to building that repository of use cases, so such that you can showcase you're on a similar level. You can say, okay, yes, they've done this, but we've also done this with this, and this. So therefore, it kind of levels the playing field. Otherwise, you run the risk of the big boys kind of outbidding you in terms of ads and stuff like that. But it all goes back to conversions and the quality conversations. And I think you guys picked up some very good points in terms of highlighting that and building that repository as much as possible.
Yep, exactly.
So you guys have brought, this is for me one of the most exciting ones. I think this is like great tip, great tip, great tip, great tip after a great tip. So I really appreciate you guys sharing. Is there anything else that we're missing that you wanted to share? Anything, any key learnings? Otherwise, I think we have so many good tips for the listeners and watchers now.
Maybe or one of our tips that we had was also internally what we did was to do a quick, as in we did an in-depth analysis of our processes, and we ended up working very hard to sync the sales and marketing process. So traditionally, marketing and sales pretty much run in silos. Um, Marketing is concerned about leads, sales is concerned about qualified leads. And there's always that discussion of marketing saying that, oh, I'm provided you X amount of leads, why aren't you converting them? And sales is always saying that, oh, you only provided me with X number of qualified leads. So internally as well, basically we move away from focusing on just like the quantum of leads generated, but more of like the quality of leads generated. I mean, it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 leads and only one converts into a client. I rather have 5 leads only, but all 5 becomes clients at the end of the day. So this is just something that we have observed during our entire journey here so far.
You're absolutely right, and I think this is a key learning for anyone in B2B enterprise high ticket sales is that it's not a volume game. I know everyone wants volume, but like you said, you could have 1,000, only one convert. But to your point, you'd rather have a lower quality because it goes back to efficiencies as well. As a smaller team, it takes time to qualify 1,000 leads. It takes time to filter. Are they actually, can they afford what we do? Are they a right fit for what we offer? And that burns up a lot of time. So I think to your point, everything talked about is really, really filtering it down and saying, okay, let's say we have even 5 to 10, and those have very, very high probability of closing versus 100 who have extremely low. Which one would you rather have? So it goes back to quality as well as efficiencies, which I think are key to a small lean team.
Yep. And I think for marketing, ultimately, like, what is the KPI that you should be tracked as a marketing person? For marketing, it's always the conversion rate, the number of leads, but the number that's really meaningful to a business at the end of the day is the revenue generated. It's not going to be about the 10,000 leads that you have in your pipeline or the number of MQLs that you can get over a short period of time. If none of those convert as a marketing person, you have not really done your job. So when it really comes to understanding what is a qualified lead for sales, especially like a lead that it's worth pursuing, just ask the sales team, the leads that I've given you, what was the feedback so far? Is there anything we need to improve in terms of messaging? Are the leads quality improving? And it's not weird for a marketing person to even sit in a sales meeting. I've actually done this exercise with the sales team here. So I just sat down there, just really observe the interaction between the sales team and the prospect, and with this kind of first-hand experience, you really gain a lot of insights. And it was just a great session for me to come up with new ideas, to brainstorm, and to really change the way I do my marketing content and approach. And that was also one of the reasons why we shifted from doing demos into really focusing on the value and the content. So, like, I feel like marketing and sales, there isn't really a need to fight, but instead it's so important to integrate and achieve the end goal.
You,
And like what Nicole said as well, like sitting in the meeting, the sales meetings itself also like really gave like exact keywords that was verbalized by the prospects themselves, which brings us back to the previous topic of like content that really screams up to specific individuals that we really want to reach out to.
Yeah.
And the more meetings you sit in, the more keywords you're gonna get. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think this is something that I learned in my previous company is taking those keywords, taking a repository and reiterating those words. So there's a concept of mirroring, whether you're in sales or in marketing. Um, we like words, we like people to mirror our body language and the same words we use because it increases familiarity and liking. So the same thing, what you guys are doing, you're listening to people, what they're talking about in the meetings, you're jotting down those keywords, and you're reiterating it back into your marketing and sales. Because once again, if you reiterate the same words that I'm saying, even in the same manner, they're going to scream out to me because it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. When a lot of times people forget that you actually said that. So I think that's a powerful kind of tool, whether your marketing sales is kind of mirroring, whether it's in the in-person session itself, or it's even in your marketing and sales collaterals. So I think once again, you guys, I'm incredibly proud. Like I said, I couldn't be prouder of you guys. You know what, you're young but talented and extremely ambitious, and I am just so proud to see what you guys have accomplished in just a few months. Most organizations, this would honestly take 1 to 2 years at least to make this transformation. But because of you guys are so driven, hungry, and willing to learn and experiment, it's just been such a huge shift over, like I said, only maybe a quarter, if that. So thank you guys so much for sharing your experience. I really, really appreciate it. Incredible tips. I look forward to hearing, what goes on in the future. But I think as of right now, it's always heartening to hear your guys' kind of success stories and what's working for you guys. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Joe.
No worries. My pleasure. My pleasure. Well, like I said, we're going to catch up again soon. But if you're watching this or you're listening to today's episode, please feel free to share it or get in contact with these guys. Share this with your finance leaders because these guys know what they're doing. Incredibly smart, incredibly capable and empathetic. So please do get in touch with them. I guess last question is, real quick, how can people get in touch with you guys to find out more about what you do?
You can search for us on LinkedIn, Kenneth Tan on LucaNet ASEAN. Same goes for Nicole as well.
All right.
We are active on LinkedIn.
Very active on LinkedIn.
Very active on LinkedIn. So please do connect with them. You will not be sorry. These guys are incredibly smart. So thank you guys so much. Really, really appreciate it. And if you're watching, thanks so much. And we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.